What's up, my financially intentional people? It has been a minute. Been gone on a little hiatus to just bring life into this world. But I'm super honored to be joined by my guest, my fellow nurse, Miss Janelle. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing lovely. I'm waiting for this rain to let up in my part of the country. I think it's been a month straight of rain every single day, but I'm hoping it'll be gone soon.
Oh my God, where are you?
I'm in New Hampshire. In this part of the country, it's technically a mountainous rainforest, and I don't usually tell, but like right now, I can tell I'm in a mountainous rainforest.
Wow, that's a fun fact.
It is.
But New Hampshire, wow, that's pretty interesting. I can honestly say I have never been there, but it sounds interesting. But I would not be able to survive in the rain because I'm convinced I have seasonal affective disorder. So I, I would probably go crazy living there. So I kudos to you. Hopefully it will stop raining because it is a million degrees where I'm at. It's probably going to be like 105 degrees here in this area of Northern California where I live. So a little rain would be nice, but I cannot do the rain for that many
Oh,
days straight.
oh yeah, no, you're in a beautiful part of the country. Yeah.
I like our little microclimates because you can drive a little bit down and be like 30 degrees cooler.
Ah.
So, and that's like a 30-minute drive equals 30 degrees cooler, which I think is pretty interesting. But anyway, let's talk about your background as a nurse and then all the other things in the nursing profession that you have tapped into. But I really want to explore your nursing journey first.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I started off as a nurse like everyone else. I've been a nurse for about 6 years now. My first nursing job was in a nursing home doing geriatric care. I did that for about 6 months, and a part of me really did love that type of care. Before I was a nurse, I was a waitress, and a lot of it is really similar. Running around, yeah, doing those crazy med passes is like almost the same as like working a patio on like Saturday night at 7 o'clock, and you're like trying to remember like ranch dressing, a margarita order, and if they wanted black beans and refried, and you're just like trying to go, go, go. So I did like it. A part of me loved it, and I did like it a lot, but I found that I would struggle when I would get home. I struggled to sleep a lot. I thought I would really love the 12-hour shifts, but I couldn't turn off after. And I found that
Mm.
with waitressing too, but it was different. The lights were dimmer with waitressing. It would start to slow down in a way that my fight or flight was kind of always on at the nursing home. I was always kind of like looking for emergencies that weren't in the restaurant. And I started to feel really anxious outside too. So while I
Hmm.
really liked the work, I just felt like it wasn't really conducive to my mental health. So I figured that I had to find, unfortunately, something else. And after that, I found pediatric special needs nursing in a school,
Mm,
which I
interesting.
loved. Yes, I still do it like part time. I do have my foot still in the door because I love it so much. Special needs kids are just my favorites. They're all so unique and fun, and the conversations we have are fabulous. Who is my favorite superhero? Like, what is their favorite song? They are just like such beautiful little souls, and they just brighten up my day all the time. And that had a schedule that I couldn't find anywhere else. Monday through Friday, 7:45 to 2:45, and then summers off.
Nice.
And then every holiday you can think of off, a week off for April vacation, that type of thing. So very balanced. And it wasn't, the patient ratios were very balanced. So it was a really good job. I also got the opportunity to take the kids to Disneyland a couple of times.
Nice.
It was so cool. They were so heartwarming in Disneyland to see them interacting with all the characters, and all of the just the displays and decorations was just such a cool experience that I didn't think I was really going to have. And I got to go to Disney World, so can't really argue with that.
Hmm.
Um, but once again, I felt like it was close, but something was still missing. I wasn't quite in my perfect little part of the universe. I still don't really know quite how to explain what was wrong besides I just got that moment where I was like, is this where I'm going to be for the next 20 years? And I started to panic. And I was like, I don't think this is where I want to be. And I can't quite articulate why this isn't for me because I was also doing more complex care because it was special needs. So I was still like catheterizing, doing G tube stuff, doing trach care, stuff like that. So it wasn't just PO meds. So it was like higher levels of care. So it wasn't even that. And like I said, to this day, I'm still not quite sure, but I just knew that I needed somewhat of a change. So I was listening to another podcast, and the gentleman on that podcast, he was always recommending to make a LinkedIn. And at this time, I was actually going for a promotion at that current job. Even though I was like, I don't think I want to do this, but there's like this promotion that there's definitely a need. I guess I'm just going to go for it. More money. Who doesn't love more money? Maybe that'll fix it. So while this was happening, I made a LinkedIn and I found a girl on there and she just had the title as nurse writer. And I was just like, what is that? And so I messaged her and she told me what it is and we'll talk about it in a second. And the rest was history. And around that same time, I actually got denied the promotion. And so I decided that I was going to give myself a promotion. And I just went on all in with nurse writing. And so that's kind of like my nursing background and like the path that led me down, I guess, like solopreneurship and where I am today.
Sounds like that nagging that you were having was kind of like a calling that you had, even though you love what you were doing, you had so much more potential to do other things in your nursing career. So I love that you followed that. I also think that LinkedIn is one of those resources that nurses highly underutilize just because the way that we get nursing jobs is a little bit different than standard, like the way other people do. But when you're looking outside of like bedside jobs, I think LinkedIn is an amazing resource for nurses. And just like that other guy on the podcast, I'm going to recommend every nurse or everybody have a LinkedIn page, whether you're looking for a job or not, because just like you did, a whole bunch of opportunities can open up to you that you probably didn't know was possible. So I love that story. And I'm interested in this whole nurse writer business. Now, I have had another nurse writer on here, and she is an incredible resource. And I've worked with her even outside of this for some other stuff that I have done. So I know the value of nurse writing, but I also know that the field is so broad. And so I think it's a great alternative for nurses that want to either supplement their income or make a career transition in itself. So I am interested in your journey in that area.
Yeah, so I actually started off just wanting to supplement my income. That's how I started. I didn't think I was going to end up doing it as aggressively, like full time as I was. I was just kind of curious. At the time, I was trying to save for a house, and I just thought, hey, I'll make some money on the side, I'll throw it in the bank, and I'll just completely forget about it. I'll just pretend like it doesn't even exist, and I'll just make this one financial goal. And my fiance was making a lot more than me at the time. He's a mechanical engineer, and that field just makes a lot more than nurses do. So I was like, I have to come up with my half of the 20% down. And it took me, I don't know, about a year to do it. And I actually ended up blowing past him for my portion of the down payment just with the writing stuff. I was just pretty much putting the writing stuff just in a bank account, and that was what it was. And it kind of really made me realize the potential of it because I just thought it was just going to be like a couple $100 I was doing here and there, and that was it. And I was like, oh, I was coming up with a large sum of money pretty quickly, and I was doing it faster than my fiance was, who is like well established in this like really well known field. So it kind of like a light bulb went off, and I was like, oh, this is more than a gig economy type of thing. This is something that is sustainable and scalable and something that can grow into something else. So that was definitely a light bulb moment for me that I decided to pursue. And I guess I started writing in a pretty unique way. I like Reddit. Reddit's just a fun social media thing for me. I'm not super into social media besides Reddit. Um, It's just fun. It's very anonymous. I don't really love the liking of things. Reddit is just my vibe. Very under the radar type of thing. And I also really like reptiles. It's just another strange little fact. And I have
Fun
a reptile.
fact.
Fun fact. New Hampshire is a mountainous rainforest and I love reptiles. So I have a reptile and I was on the reptile Reddit page and someone had made a post and they were like, does anyone want to get paid to write about reptiles? And I was just like, someone will pay me to write about reptiles? Like, yeah, absolutely. My rate was so low. It was really, really low, but it was really fun. I was just researching, just like nerding out and just having a blast writing these really short blog posts. And I did that for a couple of months and kind of the light bulb went in my head that if I was getting paid to write about reptiles, which I knew nothing about, it was just like some random hobby from Reddit, then like I wonder what people would pay me for my educational background that I had a master's in. But even when I had a bachelor's in, you could still do it with that. You don't need an advanced degree. And then I started to kind of like find work like within my niche. And it kind of just snowballed from there. And that's where I am today, working full time with that.
That is incredible. Do you still write about reptiles or was that just your entry?
I don't. That was just my intro. I don't have enough time to write about reptiles anymore, and the rate was so low. But I'll tell you, I took it so seriously, and I was like, everything is so research based, like everything I could find. I was a very serious researcher of reptiles for about 6 months.
Oh my God, that is really, really cool. But in nurse writing, what particularly do you write about? And like, how do you determine what your rate would be? How do you find people to write about? More interested in like how you approach that. And within that, did you start using a coach or did you just figure everything out on your own?
Yes, I love all those questions. There's a lot of questions there, so I'm going to start from the beginning. I have written a lot of different content as a nurse writer. A lot of people think about blogs when it first comes to mind. I do write those, and I write for general wellness blogs. So, what is this random rash? My head hurts. What does that mean? And then, more specific, I write for a podiatrist for his blog. I write about migraine disease because that's something that's really interesting for me, and I got the opportunity to do that. So I write a lot about blogs. I also write NCLEX test prep questions, which are so fun. I thought they were going to be so boring, and then I got to create these little patients, and then I would just kill them all. Which is so fun. These unique ways that my patients would die, and then I would have to have the students figure out, like a detective, how they died. Like, that was so cool. So yeah, NCLEX test prep. I've written nursing curriculum for textbooks before, nursing continuing education before. I have written I write medical content too. So I was just talking about health writing, which is writing for the general public. So I like to describe it as if I'm describing a rash to my mom. She's not going to know what a maculopapular rash is, but she might know what a reddened raised rash is. So that type of language that you would find online, that's health writing. When I was talking about NCLEX test prep, nursing curriculum, that's like academic writing for nurses. Now I'm going to go into medical writing, which is more heavy research based and medical jargon. So we would use maculopapular rash, that type of thing, which I really like this type of writing because it's like talking to another clinician, which sometimes I miss. You just kind of want to talk the talk type of thing, like in a nursing note. It's more similar to that. So I also write for a medical device company. I write content for them. I also write news briefs for clinicians. And that means that I take like dense nursing research that you would find in like a medical journal. And I take that information, like the statistics, and I translate it in a way that a physician could use in their medical practice if they want. And in that realm, I write for pulmonary as well as infectious disease. So while I'm breaking down all the different umbrellas of medical writing, health writing, academic writing, there's all these other little sub niches. I podiatry, neurology, infectious disease, everything like that. So there's all these little sub niches as well. I also am writing a website for a nurse executive, which is really fun and different. So you can also do copywriting, which I've done before. And copywriting is when you're trying to hard sell or soft sell something to a target audience. And you can do that with health too. So I'm writing blogs that are geared to sell vitamins. So that's another form of copywriting. The website's another form of copywriting. I'm sure I do a couple of other things too, but that's about all I can remember off the top of my head. At any given time, I have about 8 to 9 clients, which is fun for me because it's kind of like prioritization at the bedside, and that geriatric nursing home scenario that we were just talking about, and that waitress scenario that we were just talking about, where you have a couple of deadlines coming up and you need to remember what you're trying to do and where you are in all your articles. So I really enjoy that like brain buster type of environment that I put myself into. So that's all the types.
That's really cool. I'm like listening to the variety of things that you do. I was just like, but your specialty was never in infectious medicine or any of those things. And so I think that's an interesting point to hit on, because I can see the objections of people saying, well, I was only a labor and delivery nurse. How will I know how to write about those things? Like, how do you bust those kind of objections?
Yes, I love getting these questions because I love power talking like other nurses and reminding everyone that we are like supreme researchers. We know what evidence backed research means and we know how to find evidence. So that doesn't mean just like sifting through Google and clicking on the first link. That means going to the CDC, the WHO, and finding information from there and pulling it out. It might mean going to the American Heart Association versus going to, I don't know, Wikipedia, you know what I mean? And finding information through a research database. And we also have to remember that our educational background was really broad. I've never worked in labor and delivery, but I know what preeclampsia is. I studied it. So I know how to talk about it and I know how to research and I know how to supplement anything that I'm lacking. So and it goes for other people too. So you definitely don't have to work in infectious disease to understand like viruses and like the background around it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So I know I asked you a lot of questions before, but
That's
I'll
okay.
break those questions down. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm rusty. I'm rusty in my podcasting.
Oh, you're
Okay,
good.
girl. So, as far as finding clients,
Yep.
how did you go about finding your first clients and continuing to keep up your client base?
Yes, so I always recommend using multiple forms of client acquisition. At any given point, I might have 6 different methods that I use, and they might change. I also always recommend leaning into something. So if you find that one form really works for you, it might just work for you. You might just have a spark that other people don't have in that one area. Keep going with it. And if you feel like it's not working, then pivot to another area. So the first couple of ways that I got clients, honestly, were from, I think, Indeed and the LinkedIn job board.
Mm,
I don't think it can work that way for everyone. So I don't always recommend everyone to follow directly in my footsteps. And that's why I like to say have multiple forms of client acquisition, because sometimes you'll look at the jobs and there'll be like 300 people applying for that job. You can still definitely apply, but just know that competition is going to be a lot higher. So you might not get it. And don't be discouraged if you don't get it. So that's definitely one way. There's also smaller job boards that you can sign up for. I'm spacing on them from the top of my head, but everyone should be joining LinkedIn because there's a ton of really great resources on there. And then I also organically find them from LinkedIn networking. The more people you meet, the more people may need a writer. A lot of people just find me directly from LinkedIn after they see my title as a nurse writer and they see my history and everything, and they'll have a project. Some people find me from my website. Cold email is really popular. That's when you find an email address and you introduce yourself and you send your portfolio over. I think those are about the main methods of client acquisition that I use. Upwork is also something people use. I I recommend it cautiously because I think that there's a lot of competition there. And I think that people get really discouraged if they don't get clients quickly on Upwork. And I even struggle to get clients sometimes on Upwork. So, like I said, if you're finding that you're getting clients on Upwork, totally go for it. But if you're not, don't get discouraged. Just pivot and move on to another method.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think sometimes people give up too easily because one thing isn't working for them. But I love that you have pivoted and continue to pivot and share that. Listen, it doesn't have to look like the path that I took, but you can still do it. That's really
Hmm.
great advice. I want to know like how this is a financial podcast, right? A personal finance
Mm.
podcast. And I love that you use this initially as a side job, but you found that your income was like so good from this that you came up with your down payment really, really fast. So I want to talk about rates, how you determine your rates, and does that include negotiating and like how people can protect themselves from selling themselves short if this is something that they want to do?
Absolutely. So rates are tough. It's tough to get the confidence and it's tough to know where you are like on the continuum. It's also really hard because you can charge hourly, you can charge per project, and then you can charge per word. So it kind of gets messy. It helps to have a general idea for about each category. So you can be like, ooh, okay, I think it's going to take me about this long. It's going to be about this many words. Okay, it's about here. What I like to say for everyone is you should make a household budget. You should put everything into a spreadsheet, everything that you could think of. And it shouldn't be a household budget sheet for you to just survive. It should be for you to thrive. So my household budget spreadsheet has a vacation fund because that's really important for me. And I do not want to compromise my lifestyle. So I put that in there. Give yourself wiggle room. I always estimate up by quite a bit because I don't know, like maybe my electric's going to be higher one month, maybe my groceries are going to be higher, maybe my gas is going to be higher. Everything you can think of, put it right in the spreadsheet. Make a second spreadsheet and start plugging away numbers. If I have one client who wants one blog a week, what number can I put in that makes sense for that first budget? That's where I started trying to figure it out. And when you have one of those numbers, last check that I always do, and this is just something that I did, I always look at the number and I say, am I excited to write this? Is that a number where I'm like, okay to write this, or am I going to be like trudging through the entire time being like, oh my gosh, this work is just a bummer? Because at the end of the day, you are now your boss, so you're making your own financial decisions and there really isn't a cap on this. And if you brought up negotiations, I always recommend to negotiate. And if someone isn't okay with your rates, you always have the ability to walk away. And I will say, if they're paying like 10 cents per word, that's really low. If they're paying 10 cents per word, you probably don't want them as a client. They're probably not going to be the best people to work with. And don't forget that this is also about your mental health. It's not just about money. So if they're paying really low, what does that say about them as a person and them valuing you as a worker? They might not value you as much. That being said, that oh my gosh, that sentence was terrible. But for that, if it's your very first work ever and it's 10 cents per word, that's where I started. If it's your very first piece of content, just get your foot in the door. Don't stay there. Another piece of advice is to raise your rates like with every new client. Just test the waters, see what they'll say. You never know until you try. I didn't know until I got to the rates where I am now. So there's no shame in low rates when you start, but the important factor is to always leverage those previous rates to get higher rates. And so I was writing a deliverable and they wanted to charge really low. I think they wanted to charge $55 per deliverable. It was really low. Oh, sorry. Deliverable is like a piece of content that you write. The word
Mhm.
count was really low, but I liked it. I was kind of interested in it. So I took it. Sometimes rates aren't about everything, and it was in a new area that I knew could kind of leverage myself to the next job. So I figured this would look good for me, look good for my portfolio. I thought the work was interesting. I took it. Not like just a month later, I was able to use that first job to get a $55 per hour job at another one. So don't stress too much about where you start. It's about where you leverage yourself to get a month from now, 6 months from now. Things can move really fast in the freelancing world because you're always negotiating and you're setting your own rates.
I love that. So as I remember you saying 12-hour days weren't your thing, like when you were at the nursing home, and then you found this job that was really, really flexible. But I have written content and I know it could take just as much time. How do you structure your day so that it's more compatible for your just like work life balance, your living, and so you don't get burnt out? Because you could easily just sit down and be writing all day. So it's kind of like trading one thing for another, and it could not make your life any easier. So I just want to know like how you protect against that, and like what your typical day looks like as a nurse
Yeah,
writer.
yeah, no, that's a great point. I will say that I do genuinely love writing. So even when I do have long days, I love it. I will be like, oh, I really, really don't want to write this thing. And then I'm like, suddenly I have like way too many sources. And I'm like, did you know this? To my fiance. And he's, I thought you didn't even want to write this. I'm like, but did you know this? Well, now you do. Now I do. Like, now I know so many things about this. So it ignites a spark in me, and I get really excited because I used to pay people so much money to teach me things, and now I get to teach myself things and get paid for it. Um, so I think it helps to really like what you're doing. That being said, though, you're right. These can turn into really long days. It gets a lot easier, though, to be your own boss, like coming back to your own mentality where you don't have to have a really structured med pass where you can't use the restroom, where you can't like take a walk, where you can't like have a lunch break. If I feel like I'm like getting foggy, if I feel like the words aren't coming, if I feel like I'm getting hungry and I'm just not noticing it, I just put the laptop down. I take a walk, I go for a bike ride. I have a pool, I go for a swim. It also helps that I have, I guess, like a hierarchy of things that I like to do. And I'm a really avid skier. So writing will never come before skiing. So when it's winter, every weekend I put it down and I go skiing. If it's snowing, and I put it down and I go skiing. The second I see a snowflake, I'm like, bye, I'll see you later. So it also helps to really check in with your body too. Like I said, if you're hungry, get up, that type of thing. Don't get really roped into it. Always remember to check in with yourself, which sometimes it does get a little bit hard because I don't know if you're like a researcher like I am, but I'll just be so into what I'm doing, the task at hand, that sometimes it is hard to remember. But just kind of putting yourself first always definitely helps.
Yeah, I can definitely go down a rabbit hole on research, and then you're just like, okay, I'm spending a lot of time on this. I want to talk about, what do you think the future of nurse writing is with all this AI that's coming out that is really like doing a lot of the writing? Where do you think, or what role do you think AI is going to play? And if this is going to be a viable job in a couple of years?
Yeah, so the AI thing is such a hot topic, right? And it was a really hot topic about 6 months ago. Like everyone thought it was like an apocalypse of writing. I've played around with the tools. I'm honestly not too impressed, but that's just me. I think that the writing is really basic. I think it sounds like it's coming from a robot. I don't think it sounds like it's coming from like a human. Also, it pulls inaccurate research a lot of the time. So if you're using it, you have to go back and make sure all of that research content is right. So it takes a lot longer to make sure that the sources are correct. Not only that, but most of my contracts say that I can't use AI because they're not paying for someone that uses AI. They're paying for a nurse who has an advanced background in years of clinical experience, which is something AI doesn't have, right? AI has never been at the bedside explaining a complex medical diagnosis to a newly diagnosed, I don't know, diabetic patient. in that empathetic tone. And AI can't really pull out the same information that we can pull out. It can try, and sometimes it does a great job with like really basic tasks, like maybe setting up a blog format based on what Google is saying that people want to read. But I'm not super afraid that it's going to take my job. I just haven't really seen that leap yet, and I'm not super impressed by it. There's also so many different facets of writing that I think our area is safe for such a complex level of writing. Maybe basic writers for some industries might struggle, but I don't think like medical writing, I don't think academic writing, I don't think nurse writers are going to be struggling the same way other niches might struggle with AI in the future.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why I actually think it further validates your job, right? Because it's that evidence based component, it's the actual human experience of X, Y, and Z that robots and AI can't necessarily pick up on. And I'm going to say yet because
Yeah.
I don't know what the future is holding and it does change so fast. But I agree with you that I don't think that the level that the writing comes out right now is sufficient enough to really replace what you can do. So, but I know that a lot of people will ask that, like, why don't
Yes.
people just use these AI tools that they have now? I think when you're talking about medical things, even like finance stuff that's individual, you have to really do a deeper dive and make sure that the information is correct. And by the time you do that, you could have just written it yourself, right? So
Yes.
so I love your answer. I think that's great. But I want to really talk about like how you now help nurses who are looking for something else. Maybe they're at the bedside and there's burnout and there's this whole mass exodus of nurses right now. But help nurses use their existing skills and skills that they can build upon to become a nurse writer.
Absolutely. So, when I was starting my journey and when I had that realization that I didn't quite feel like I was in the right spot in the nursing universe, it was a really lonely time. It really stinks. You have that realization that you went to school for so long and you're in it, and then you're just like, oh no, this is not what I want to do. Oh no. So I am now super dedicated to helping other nurses who might be in that same position, who are burnt out, who are unsafe at the bedside, who are just looking for a way out. I want to be supportive for those people. So I do offer a number of different resources for people who do want to explore their options as a nurse writer, whether it be full time, part time, if they just want to dip their toes, like I started off doing. Whatever they want to do, I want to be a supportive cheerleader for that. So I do have a course that takes you from having absolutely no experience to scaling your business throughout the first year of your freelancing journey. We go over how to create an invoice, how to set up that exact budget that I was talking about, how to set your rates with examples, how to reach out to companies with examples. And we also go over as many different types of writing as I know with about the range that they can expect to charge, along with what that type of deliverable looks like more or less and what it's like to write it. And then I also offer a portfolio building package. And a portfolio is just kind of like a resume in the writing world. It's just 3 to 5 pieces of published content that a editor will ask for every single time you reach out. So it's pretty important. It's just kind of like a resume. And I get the question all the time is how can I get started without having any experience? That's the portfolio. So I offer a package for that too. And I also offer like coaching. And if you go to my website too, which is willowbarkwriting.com, I offer free webinars, everything like that to help you guys out too.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I just feel like it's from top to bottom, but you're still, I'm just floored like how you can do all these things. You're doing your coaching, you're doing you still work at the school, you're doing your writing. I know I do a lot of things, but I'm always super impressed to hear that people are out here doing it. But I love it, and I can hear the joy in your voice. And it sounds like you found something that you really love and are passionate about. And it's within the field of nursing, which I just love and made a business from. So I always tell people there are endless ways to make money, and I think this is a great way, and you provide such a easy roadmap for people to follow through your courses and the services that you provide. So I think this is just incredible. Like I said, I've worked with nurse writers. I love nurse writers. I think that we nurses often sell ourselves short on what we can do, but our potential is so strong, and it can really help with all your financial goals as a side hustle or even to replace your job if that's what you wanted to do. So I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your experience and just how you've been able to grow in the area. And I know people will be inspired. So I really, really appreciate you, Janelle. Like, this has been so good. I've learned a lot myself. So I know my listeners will thoroughly enjoy this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm always so excited to talk about something like this because I didn't know about it until someone told me. So I'm always trying to preach it and tell other people about it who might be feeling how I felt when I learned about it.
And just share one more time how people can get in contact with you, access the services that you have.
Absolutely. So it's willowbarkwriting.com, or I'm really active on LinkedIn. I'm really friendly. My name is Janelle Barowski. You guys can find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, send me a connection request. I'd be happy to help you guys.
Love it. Thanks again, Janelle.
Oh, you're so welcome. Have a nice day.
You too.